Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Amen. If you please honor our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Hi, Vesna. How are you? Good.
No, I didn't. I talked to you yesterday.
Here. Councilor Lowell.
Here.
Councilor Mott. Councilor Madonza.
Here.
Councilor Mercia.
Here.
Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Councilor Norm.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Kennedy.
Here.
8 present.
Thank you. At this time, I'd recognize Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for 3 individuals that the city recently has lost. One was Ethel Callahan, longtime resident of the Centerville section. She worked at New England Telephone for over 42 years, very active in the Merrimack Valley Catholic Charities, League of Catholic Women, and a longtime volunteer at Saints Medical Center. She recently passed away at 104, and from what I understand, she was the last surviving member of the family. The second individual is Ernie Lambert. Ernie was a resident of the Pawtucket section. He was predeceased by his wife, Doris. Ernie worked for many years at the Lowell Post Office as a carrier. Very, very quiet, a true gentleman, a sportsman, and like many members of that generation, his generation, never said 2 words. It was just recently I learned Ernie was a member of the 101st Airborne at Bastogne. I worked with Ernie for years, never mentioned it, and really a true American hero. He survived by his 2 sons, Norman and Paul, and lastly was Del Alberghini. Del was predeceased by his wife, Ellen Alberghini. Many people that went to Lowell High will remember Del as the track coach back in the 60s. A great athlete in his own right, and he's survived by his daughter, Maria Darling, her husband, Ed, and their son, Brendan, along with another daughter, Lisa Daigle, and her husband, Wayne, and their children, Charles and Elizabeth. May they all rest in peace.
Thank you. Councilor Mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to comment on Ernie Lambert, former mailman, retired mailman. He was my mailman for like 32 years in the Lower Highlands section of the city. And the very first time I noticed, he had a dog walking with him along the route. And I thought, gee, imagine he brought his dog to work. And I questioned him about it some months later, and I said, gee, Ernie, I can't believe you're bringing your dog to work. How wonderful, and he's so obedient. He said, he's not my dog. Over by Plain Street, he comes out of the house and he follows me along the route, and then I get a mail truck and I put him in it and I drive him back home, and he did this for like 10 years. The dog was amazing, and it just proved to me that this dog and this mailman, yes, could get along, and so I thought that was a beautiful story, and I just had to share it. He was a wonderful man, and I'm very sorry to hear that. Thank you for letting me say that.
Thank you. If you'd all please rise in a moment of silence in darkened chambers. Next, we have Mayor's business, communication, quarterly report regarding the council employees, manager, clerk, auditor, benefits. Any discussion? Councilman Donson.
Accept report and place on file.
Move to accept by Councilman Donson, seconded by Councilor Noon. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have the city clerk's portion of the agenda. Minutes of the city council meeting of January 8th, Finance Subcommittee, January 8th, Rules Subcommittee, January 8th, for acceptance.
Move the minutes to be accepted. Place
Move
on.
to accept by Council Kennedy, seconded by Council Laurie. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have the communication from the city auditor. The second quarter 2013 cash controls review and the December budget reports. Any discussion? Councilman Donson.
A couple of quick questions to the auditor. On page 1 of the report, a couple of things. The first is from planning and development, there's a transfer that then appears to be into inspection service in the next section, public safety. And I was just wondering if you could enlighten us on why that was done.
Sure. When the budget was passed, it was segregated out in 2 separate sections, but when we posted the budget, for the sake of doing it in an expeditious manner, we posted everything to the one planning and development, and then later on transferred the inspectional services portion out, because at the end of the year, for Schedule A, I have to put inspectional services with public safety, not with the inspections, or DPD.
All right, so this will be more in line with the budget now, or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The other question is there's 2 items for fire, one under general government and one under public safety. What's the distinction?
The one in general government, that's basically for the buildings versus the public safety portion of the fire.
You say buildings?
The buildings, yes.
What about the building maintenance or?
Building maintenance.
Building maintenance. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move to accept and place on file.
Motion to accept by Councilman Donson, seconded by Council Leahy. Council Leahy.
Thank you. Through you to the auditor. I just, going through this, I was just wondering, DPW on page 2, item 400, is it normal, I'm probably missing something, but is it normal, that everybody else seems to have their budget down to about 50% or so, and then theirs is up to 80, 88, 87%?
What ends up happening is a lot of their long-term contracts, including their snow and ice contracts, they put up as encumbrances, so that would
Okay.
actually hit against the budget.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have under unfinished business, vote to accept Chapter 32B, Section 20. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilman Donson, seconded by Councilor Mercier. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council vote, accepting Section 20 of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 32B, as amended.
Move approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilman Donson. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Laurie.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mendoza.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Nguyen.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
Mr.
Councilor
Mayor.
Mercier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Before we get into the city manager's portion of the agenda, I would like to move to suspend the rules to allow my motion to come forward, only because we have a number of students here, and they must get home in a timely fashion to do their homework. Am I right? Absolutely. So if we
Second
could
it.
do that.
Motion by Councilor Mercier to suspend the rules, seconded by Councilor Noon. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. We have motion by Councilor Mercier. Request to renew the home rule petition with this new city council to lower the voting age to 17 for municipal elections. So moved by Councilor Mercier, seconded by Councilor Noon.
I think we have
Mr.
two
Clerk.
people registered to speak.
Yes, they're up. Cindy Chavez.
her? My name's Debbie Ann.
Debbie An.
Hello, my name's Debbie Ann. I live on 7 Everett Street.
Hi, my name is Cindy, and I live on 34 Reed Street. Okay, to begin with, thank you for having us here, and a big thank you to Councilor Rita Mercier for bringing this motion forward. We've been working hard on this Vote 17 campaign since 2009. We are looking forward towards the continuation of this journey. Now, you may be wondering, why 17? Well, to start off, once you turn 18, many new doors open up. Colleges, jobs, friends, and money are all cluttering your mind. Voting is probably the last thing you're wondering about. Well, at the age of 17, you're still in school and you're very aware of what's going on in your community and your surroundings. Voting at the age of 17 is intentional because it increases youth voices throughout the city. Studies prove that if you start early, voting can create long-life civic habits, which will increase voter turnout.
We have spent a lot of time at the State House and would like to thank Representative Kevin Murphy, Representative Golden, Representative Nango, and Senator Donahue for supporting us. We know that we can pass this bill. Thank you, City Solicitor Christine O'Connor, for all of your work in helping us refile this bill. We know that we have massive support through all parts of Lowell. Thank you, City Council, for your vote to re-endorse this bill last spring. We now ask you all to consider to vote unanimously on bringing this bill back to Beacon Hill so we can finally make history.
Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you. Councilor Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This motion is to renew the challenge that was brought forth by UTEC, United Teen Equality Center, and its members on November 9, 2010, and provide an opportunity for this new council to lend their support to a renewed home rule petition to lower the voting age to 17 for municipal elections. They are asking if they can simply utilize their democratic right to allow people age 17 the right to vote in local election. They came very close the last time, but it remained in the final committee reading stage and missed the House floor for a vote to put this question on the ballot. Are they giving up? No, they're not. And with your help and my fellow colleagues, this time they will get this question on the ballot. They want what is fair. They want what is right. They want a say in their government. While others who by this age have this inalienable right in today's day and age fail to use it. Those that would like the right cannot get it, and it can't be transferred over from one person to another or people who don't care about it. And let's not deny the fact that voter turnout is tremendously low. In November of 2011, that election turnout was 19%, up a little more this November due to an unusual race, but relatively low most elections. I am honored to present this motion, for I saw and remain to see through your long journey a group of dedicated, motivated, and thorough teens who exemplify the courage and responsibility of the best that I believe are our youth today. You have displayed not only to me, but to residents in Lowell, just how sincere and compassionate this issue is to you, and I respect all of you for it. Before I came in here this evening, on our desk, prepared by the solicitor Christine O'Connor, is a vote. The reason that this vote is before us now is because we have a city solicitor that took it upon herself to communicate with State Representative Kevin Murphy, who informed her that this home rule petition has to be filed by Friday. So we didn't realize we have such a time constraint here. So I want to thank you, Madam Solicitor, for doing that, and I'd just like to bring it forth for the vote, suspend the rules to allow this vote to come in this evening, because time is of the essence, and we didn't realize that. So if we could have a roll call vote on this home rule petition.
Madam Solicitor.
I was just going to say, just to be clear, Kevin Murphy's office, Representative Murphy's office, was actually in touch with the law department as well, and we worked with him in making sure that this happened timely. But he was the moving force behind this date.
Thank you very much.
So I'll just read the vote then.
Right.
Motion to waive the full reading by Council Mercia, second by Council Noon. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council vote approving the filing of legislation to lower the requisite voting age for all local municipal elections from 18 years of age to 17 years of age.
Right. Thank you.
Motion to approve
Right. Yes.
by Council Mercia, seconded by Council Noon. Roll call, please.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Laurie.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Medonsa.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Nguyen.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
So you have some more work to do. Good luck.
Right.
Next, we have...
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to also ask for suspension of the rules to bring a motion forward, the families here. It would be motion item 24, and that's the, to dedicate the community park and garden on Whiting Street for William Lavassa, the founder of Cody's Market.
Motion to suspend the rules by Council Laurie, seconded by Council Mendonça. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Motion by Council Laurie. Request the City Council vote to dedicate the community park and garden on Whiting Street in honor of Wilfred Lavassa, founder of Cody's Market. Seconded by Council Leahy. Council Laurie.
I'd like to make a motion on behalf of the Aiken Neighborhood Group, the action to name the new community garden and park on Whiting Street for William Lavassa. He was the from Cody's Market. The Cody's opened in 1917 by Wilfred Lavassa's father-in-law. Wilfred took over the business in 1950, and it's now in its third generation of the Lavassa family supplying Lowell with famous beans. Wilfred was part of the neighborhood that was always there to tell. He would razz the customers, always yelling out what specials he had, pork pie, salmon, brown bread, telling jokes. And I think anyone who bought beans in there, you were always familiar with the term with or without. He always made people happy. He was a real gentleman in the neighborhood. And now the business has been passed on to his son Roger and the rest of the family. And, you know, you look at Cody's, and usually when you do something like this, it's the end of an era. But with the university coming into that area, and I'm still a frequent flyer over at the Cody's Market, especially Saturdays, they'll probably outlive the park, the store itself. But I'd like to make this motion, and I know there's a couple of speakers. One is Dave Willett, and as Dave's speaking, I think the people at home on TV will see a presentation of the park and what it will look like.
Thank you, Marty. And thank you all the councilors, Mr. Manager, for taking the time for this great motion. The action group was asked by the city to do something with the abandoned lot on Whiting Street. We were turning it into a nice park for the neighborhood. Then a grant program for urban community gardens was approved. We designed 14 garden beds into the park, partnered with Coalition for a Better Acre, Mill City Growers, and Lowell Alliance for Family and Neighborhoods, and applied for grants through your neighborhood planning department, ran by a terrific, energized employee, Allegra Williams. By next spring, the project will be complete and a formal ribbon cutting will take place. We already have a beautiful 12 by 16 pergola built by the crew from Community Teamworks Youth Build Program, and lots of help from your Parks and Recreation Director, Tommy Bellegarde, just happens to be right here. Terrific gentleman, helps out. It's incredible what we can do with him. Thank you, Tommy. At a meeting of action, we decided to name the park and tried to figure who we should choose. It did not take long to decide Wilfred Lavassa. Cody's Market has been a fixture of that area of the acre since 1917, and the Lavassa family has been serving the community great food. Wilfred Lavassa always was such a terrific person, helping everyone, even in hard times. If times were tough and you needed groceries, you could put your order on account. everybody was welcome. He made everyone laugh, always had a story, made that saying, with or without, as famous as their beans. I went there every Saturday as a child and still do, and have many memories of Wilfred, such a happy person, always making you feel welcome, and all the customers laugh. You do not just shop there, it's an event. It is a gathering spot. People are talking on the sidewalk for quite a while, even after their purchases. He made Cody's a staple of the acre and of the whole city, and has touched many lives. And thank you for all Wilfred and his family has done for us. We are proud to name our new project the Wilfred Lavassa Community Park and Garden. Roger?
Wow, that was terrific. My name is Roger Lavasser, and I'm welcome the chance to address the city council. My father is Wilfred Lavasser, and the son-in-law of Joseph F.H. Cody. I am honored that you have considered it a park after my father, Wilfred Lavasser. He became a permanent fixture in the Lowell community, gaining respect from all we came in contact with. Friendly grocer, printer, secretary of Lowell Grocers, and vice president of the Draco Senior Citizens. That was just a few of the many things he was involved in. His hobby and passion was gardening, and this park will really be a monument to what he really and truly loved, encompasses what he truly loved. So he would be thrilled to see this, but he passed away 5 years ago, and I took over the store, and it's going to stay there for a long time. So I appreciate the opportunity and the gesture for naming the park after him, and I thank every one of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lavasser.
Okay.
Councilor Mercy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I knew the father as well. What a great man. Oh, my goodness. This is the greatest motion to have this happen for this family. You have been fulfilling my hunger all these years, and I truly appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have the city manager, communications from the city manager, responses to city council motions and requests and informational materials. Any discussion? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. We did receive a response to the closing of the University Bridge, Mr. Manager. Thank you. It does not appear, according to this memo, that they'll have to close the bridge at all.
Right.
Amen. So that's great news. Well, and of course, there's that caveat, unless something happens, a contractor may have to, but at this point, there's no plan. So, Mr. Manager, I just had a question. It has come to my attention, actually through the Lowell Sun called me today asking me about the Howe Bridge, Dick Howe Bridge. And they're putting the last piece of steel on. And I know there was no groundbreaking for that bridge, and I'm a little disappointed, I have to admit. And I made the motion, but knowing, it's such a significant landmark, or will be a significant landmark in the city, and when you put the last piece of steel on a building, there's usually a ceremony commemorating at least that aspect of it, and I think we should be doing something for it. I don't know when they're putting the last piece of steel on. I just learned of it today, but I do think it's important to recognize that, especially for someone who served in this chamber for such a great length of time. And I think it's a great tribute that this council voted that landmark to former Mayor Howe. And so I didn't want an opportunity to go by without mentioning it and saying we should put something, actually, Mr. Mayor, we should put something together.
Mr. Manager.
If it's not too late, I don't know if it's too late, Mr. Manager.
We can certainly check on that. It did sort of take off in terms of its construction, and as you know, it's a state project, but it will be a city bridge, so we are planning a ceremony certainly for its dedication and its opening when it's completed. But it has become so customary of late to do the last piece of steel on many projects, so we can certainly follow up and see if we can work with the state to have something like that happen.
All right, thank you. I feel if we can dedicate bus shelters, then we can certainly dedicate you know, that bridge to, or at least the last piece of steel. Thank you.
Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I mention my own motions, I'd just like to say I think those were some classy remarks by Councilor Elliott. I know I'm a graduate of UMass Lowell, and when they did the Nano building, the last piece of steel that went up, you could go up and sign it. So if that's one idea, but I appreciate those comments by Councilor Elliott. First, there were three motions I made that came back. One was the traffic conditions on Andrews and Lupine Road. I know Councilor Martin received calls on Andrew Street, and Lupine Road, it was when I was making one of my jaunts through the city, walking around, but I was talking to some of the people up there, and I guess it's a major cut-through, and they were concerned about speed. So I appreciate the work traffic engineer Eric Eby did on these two sites. I'd like to commend the manager and the employees involved on the problem property task force. We did get the report back. There is a task force now in place, and I think it's much more similar to what you'll see in Boston. I don't know what they're going to have for violations. In Boston, it's 4, and you go on this problem property task force. I'm hoping it's 4, no more than 5. But I do appreciate the work that the administration did put in putting this task force together. Finally, I'd like to talk about the outdoor skating. I put that motion in last January and probably brought us one of the warmest winters on record. And now it is out there on Ian Welcome Field. And I really want to congratulate Tom Belgard and the Parks Department on the work they did out there. It really looks good. And the feedback I've received in the city, it's really been very, very positive. And with that note, and I know I had a conversation with Councilor Martin downtown at a function. I'd like to make a motion that ice skating rink cost us $4,500, and that's going to bring a lot of fun to the city. A lot of people are going to have a good time. That's half the size of a hockey rink. I'd like to make a motion that we not only invest to make that the normal size for a hockey rink. With 106,000 people in the city, I think we could use the extra. It would probably be 90 feet. So it would probably be a $4,500 investment. And I'd also ask the city, and I'd like to make this in formal motion, and if Councilor Martin's okay with this, I talked to Councilor Martin about a co-motion, but see if we couldn't get another skating rink for $4,500 downtown. We're investing, and companies are investing millions of dollars. Downtown is a resident. We're trying to bring people in downtown. We have a vibrant nightlife. We do have a lot of the residents, condos, apartments. We're looking at the jam plan, millions of dollars being invested. And for an additional $4,500, you look at some of the, New York has them, you look at some of the communities in Greater Lowell, Greater Boston, they're lucky they have their town halls near a common with a pond. We don't have that here in the city. But I think that would be a real asset to downtown if we could do something like that. And I'd like to put that in the form of a motion to extend the one on Ian Welcome Field for next year. It'd probably be about $4,500. And then as we're investing the millions and as this city moves forward, if we could find a location downtown or near downtown to place another one probably that size. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I think it'd be probably more appropriate to file a motion for next week. But
I'll do that. That'd be fine.
Councilor Martin.
That's fine. I guess I was going to second it since my name was brought up here, but let me just say I congratulate the administration, and I spoke to Councilor Laurie, congratulated him about this new outdoor rink. I said it's something I've wanted to see in the city for a long time, and by pushing it's finally happening. Of course, it happened in a week where temperatures in January hit 60 degrees, so illustrates the problems we have with something like this. And if it was to be bigger for next year, that's fine. I didn't want to see anything happen that was going to delay this any further. I'm curious to see how this comes out, how easily it is maintained, whether it's easy or not to maintain, who uses it. But I think it's a very admirable effort and a good first step, and if we can expand it, I'm certainly in favor of that.
I'll bring that in as a motion next week to expand it and possibly looking for a site downtown.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Council Leahy.
Thank you. Just a couple of observations. I just wanted to say that today I went to the dedication of the bus. I lost my notes here, the bus shelters. So by a motion brought by the mayor, and that was a great idea, and it's a good idea throughout the city. I was able to attend the Start Closer School for the safety meeting for the school department, run by the police department. That was very informative and well attended. There must have a few hundred people there, so that was great. And I had something else, but I lost my notes here. I don't know. I'll get back to you on the third one. I lost that somewhere here.
Sure.
But Chief LaValle did a great job today. That was very informative, and I'm sure the staff and superintendent appreciated every minute of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Elliott.
Thank you. I just want to ask a question on the report we received from the health department. I know there was an article in the paper last week, and we received a report on the city is out of flu doses, and that there's no ability, Mr. Manager, to get any more. I mean, I did read the report, and it says that we get our flu shots from the state.
Correct.
And they're not going to give us any more, and one of the worst.
Right, we are tracking that down. I'm going to be meeting with the health director to do some follow-up on this. And in the past, we've got some, we get some from the state, and then we buy some from some private vendors. And there's been such a utilization this year that this has become an issue. So we are hoping to, I hope to have a positive report for the council for next week.
And the city can get reimbursed for these flu shots.
Some number, I believe. I don't
Well,
think it's all, but I have to check on that.
I say that because, and I wish we would have known we were going to run out, I would have got it elsewhere, but I mean, I got my flu shot from the health department, and I gave them my medical insurance so they can get reimbursed for it. So that's why I don't understand why we can't get any more if people are paying for it. And I understand some people can't pay for it, and the city administers, but when I saw that, I didn't understand, and I still don't understand why we can't get more if people's insurance can pay for it.
Right. Yeah, when you mentioned reimbursement, I thought you meant the ones that we get from the state, that reimbursement, not the insurance reimbursement. But
okay, so
but hopefully I'll have a more up-to-date information next week.
And I know we're getting late into the season, and it does take a couple of weeks for the antibodies to build up, but given the nature of the problem, hopefully it'll go away, but just wanted to ask. Thank you.
Have all the councilors received their flu shots?
Yes.
No. See.
Councilor Martin.
Since we're talking about this, could I make a motion to suspend the rules to consider my motion here?
Sure. Motion to suspend the rules by Councilor Martin,
And
seconded by Councilor Laurie.
and if I may join into one of my motions
count-
as well.
And suspend the rules to allow for both Councilor Martin's motion and Councilor Noon's. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Motion by Councilor Martin, request the city manager have proper department take measures to publicize the availability of flu shots. Seconded by Councilor Noon. Councilor Martin.
Thank you. So, we've got pretty much the report, but I guess the only thing I would add is that, at least in years prior, we've been encouraging people to get a flu shot, more as a public health measure to prevent. And and historically, I had never got one until I heard that this is sort of like an immunization, a good public health thing to do. And so if we're out of stock now, we should be at least trying to publicize. I mean, most pharmacies now even offer the flu shot, most local doctors. It's covered by most insurances. And if the city's able to obtain new stock, then certainly we should do that. But I think we want to get the word out that flu shots are still available. That's a really small number that the health department administers anyway for a city this size. So that was my point, just for people to understand that it's not out citywide, it's just the city stock.
Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Noon, request the city manager have proper department prepare a report regarding preparedness in addressing the flu epidemic issue. Seconded by Councilor Martin. Councilor Noon.
Thank you, sir. Well, I concur with Councilor Elliott that we need to do our due diligence to get the vaccine from the state, as quick as possible, and at the same time, let the public know that they can go to their local pharmacy, CVS or Walgreens, that they do offer a shot there. In the package along that, choose that we received this handout, and I was wondering, but maybe that go into the communication part of it. But for now, that just let me address that motion. That is, I concur with everything said by Councilor Elliott and Councilor Martin, and that we need to try to get those from the state, and at the same time, let the public know that they can still go to their local pharmacies or the local community health to get the shot, because it's important to do so as warned by the state, and that it's going to be worse than year before. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Returning back to the communications portion of the agenda, Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. Through you to the manager, I found my notes. I just wanted to ask about Councilor Mercy's motion about, we got the report for Andover Street.
Yes.
And I was just wondering, I understand there's a cost, but is there, the report really doesn't say, is there anything in the works to add this into the road construction and further ask utilities that, when you cut into it, you gotta replace it? And just, do you know when the last time we did Andover Street? It's been quite a while, but they did a number of panels, right, for a summer project. That was probably federal money or something, so.
Yeah, and that was some
time.
Mr. Mayor, that was some years ago. That's goes back quite a ways, and it is expensive to replace. As you saw, the cost to replace those panels, small section, is substantial. The cost to do that is the equivalent to doing an entire street somewhere else in the city. But we are looking at some different options to get that work done, including looking at our capital budget. In the other issue is that you raise is an excellent one, not only on Andover Street but throughout the entire city. It's really the prevention that can occur if you make sure the utilities are doing the job properly when they do work, and then repairing it in like form, and that goes back some time. I believe that was the case. The action we took this past year in the budget to hire the construction inspector is part of that ongoing effort that we have now to maintain the road surfaces with a better enforcement of the street opening bylaw or street opening ordinance. And so, that is a challenge sometimes with utilities, but that really is where the real effort is. But we are tracking down to see what type of funding is available outside, as well as looking at doing the work with city money. But it is a substantial amount of money that would have to be spent there out of a somewhat limited pool of funds. Hopefully with the governor's new transportation proposal, there'll be an additional amount of Chapter 90 money coming to the city, which should be able to free up additional funds for us as well.
Okay. Do we have any history on how we paid for it years ago? Was it a federal grant, or was it?
For some reason,
They did almost the whole road. They did a lot of work.
Right. My understanding was that was state money, but that, again, was well before my time, and so I'm not sure what that was.
Okay, thank you.
Council Lowell and then Council Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just going back, and I had a question on the Problem Property Task Force. Now that it's in place, if a person is on that problem property, if there's a property who's on it, and we send them a letter, is it going to have its own letterhead? For example, if we send out violations, say from Board of Health or the Building Department, you get a letter from those departments. To put a little more bite in, is we going to have a letterhead for the task force? So if you did have second or third letters, you know you're...
Right. We can certainly do that. We really hadn't, the meeting, the group is going to meet and talk about it, but it's simple enough to do. It's all computer generated, so we can do that.
And I want to commend you on the choice to lead. It was assistant to the city manager, Henry Marshan, so I think he'll do a fine job. Thank you.
Council Noon.
Thank you, sir. If I may go back to the flu report from the manager, I appreciated that the health department, do an education and prevention awareness through some of this handout here. The question through you to the manager, is this handout in multi-language or just in English?
I believe that's just in English, but I'm really not sure of that, Councilor. It's not something that we generate. I believe it's something that we
have your logo, the Lowell Health Department.
But I think we order it up already made with those put on that. I don't know, but I'll follow up on that.
It certainly would be helpful to have
Absolutely.
it in multi-language, so that you can drop off at different location. The other questions I have is that this awareness or education, was it, do you go through the LTC to do that posting or educating through that as well?
We would be doing that on any type of communication effort. We went through a very bad flu season 2 years ago,
Right.
and we were really one of the leaders in the state in terms of, one, having the most contagious one of the first cases here in the city, but also the educational effort that we put forward and the partnership with the institutions, the hospitals, the community college, the university, and we would look to roll that out again as this flu season moves forward to communicate all of that type of information. So we would use LTC, the website, whatever media is out there that would that we could utilize.
Well, communication as important as this, I would encourage you to utilize all those local LTC in those different language. You send in a press release or something to them and have them then pass it all along to their respective audience. Certainly it would be very cost effective in a sense because it doesn't cost. So I would encourage you to do that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Absolutely, Council, and I just want to be clear on that, that flyer. As I say, I believe those are off the shelf that you can personalize for every organization. So that's the same one you'll see in the city of Worcester and elsewhere. It's just you buy them with the logo put on, but we'll follow up on that.
Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. Mr. Manager, I can remember some years ago with those panels being put down on Andover Street, and I believe Brian Martin was the city manager at the time, and it took a lot of effort, so I thought that was great, and it was a long time ago. But when the utilities ask for a permit to open up the street, at that time, are they required to post a performance bond to make sure that the work is brought back in the condition similar, if not better, which they're seeming not to be doing, and then we're stuck with it, and then it's our responsibility. If a utility company, and they get enough money from me for my electricity and my gas, that when they're gonna rip off up our streets, they should put it back to the condition as required by the state law that says put it back to the condition, if not better than the way that you found it. And so I'm troubled knowing that they're not doing that. And
Mr. Manager.
Right, Counselor, I agree, and again, that's the effort that we've been making through the engineering office and the hiring of the construction inspector last year to enforce that, because that frankly is a place, if you look across the city, because they're pretty easy to see, it's often the street cuts that you can see are the problem on the streets, and these go back years. So we've really stepped that up over the last number of years, and I'm not sure when that particular cut was made, and we can certainly try to track that down to help understand that a little bit more. But I believe they are required to post a performance bond. They do have to pay a fee, and they do have to abide by certain requirements. Now, whether in fact, we'd have to check on whether they have to replace it with concrete, because that would require them then to take out that whole slab. And the state actually has not always been, Department of Public Utilities has not always been as supportive of municipalities as we would like. In fact, your reference to state law, they've actually been just the opposite. That the state, through the Department of Public Utilities, my recollection is that they have not backed up municipalities. They've in fact sided with the utilities in many of these cases. So we need to do our own job in enforcing that and making them abide by it. So that's where that stands. But I agree completely. When these roads belong to the city, and when they cut those roads, they should be required to. We give them the opportunity, the right to be there. Again, the Department of Public Utilities has a different perspective on that, because we are entities created by the state. So, and these utilities fall under, have certain legal status. But I agree with you completely.
And I'm saying that if they cut into a street that is concrete, that's what they should be putting back there is concrete. That's not the condition they found it if they're putting asphalt in there, or hot top, or whatever.
I agree.
Okay.
Councilor
Glad we
Kennedy.
agree.
Well, I'm not saying we can necessarily make it happen, but we agree.
Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. What's the procedure now in the city? I mean, when they close up the street, when they've finished their work, does somebody from the city inspect it and sign off, or does that happen all the time, or does that happen sometimes the next day, or what's the procedure that's in place for that?
I'd have to check on the exact procedure, but they're supposed to be out there when the construction is taking place, and when there's certain specifications that they have to abide by, that in terms not only of they just have to patch it, but that they have to compact it. They have to use, in some cases, certain materials to help that hold up more. And the inspections are supposed to be taking at or about the time that the road is being. The problem again is if there's multiple jobs taking place across the city. Again, we're limited somewhat in what we can do. Because of the rules of the Department of Public Utilities, we can't hold them up necessarily, but we try to get out there, if not always, to make sure they're doing it exactly as we require. And if there's any issues, there is supposed to be a period of time that they have to come back and make those repairs. And again, I'm not sure when that particular site had that work done, but that's what's supposed to be happening.
Could we get a report on what the exact procedure is?
Absolutely.
And whether or not is it the engineering department?
Yes.
Whether or not they feel that there's so much of it that it's overwhelming for the manpower they have, or whether it's just how much of a problem it is. But it would seem to me that things would be a lot better if we had to sign off afterwards, and then we would know, at least at that point when it was all closed up, that everything was okay then.
Right, yeah.
Thank you. Councilman Mendoza.
Yes, also in our packet is Mr. Moses' financial review following the second quarter. Seemed to be very positive. Everything is on track. No big surprises. And while some of the surprises are in the positive, and the water department seems to have had more revenue in the past year than was originally anticipated, leaving it with a greater surplus than the start of the year, which is certainly a big positive. One of the items in that is you've updated the projections, and you said that the administration is now considering bringing forth a $20 million bond for further improvements and maintenance to that. And it seems to be pretty much absorbed within the current enterprise fund, but in the outer years may pressure a small rate increase at that time. And I certainly would be supportive of having improvements, especially right now when we have a low interest rate environment. We can certainly get a lot more done for our money with a very low cost. Having said that, though, I would like to try and as much as possible avoid having those improvements become pressure for rate increases in the future. You did say in your report that you hadn't included the savings from the photovoltaic project yet in the projections, and that I suspect that your interest costs going forward are conservative, which means hopefully higher than they would actually be. So I'm hoping that when you do bring forth that proposal, that it either update the projections to include those things to be closer to what you think it'll be at the time. And I could certainly be more supportive if there's no pressure on rate increases in the foreseeable future as a result of it. And I would like to see the improvements take place. So I'm optimistic that things are going very well financially, and that we can do quite a bit of improvements in that enterprise fund within its current budget and reserves. I don't know if Mr. Moses wants to comment further on it, maybe in case I misrepresented anything.
No, you actually hit all the salient points about that. Not all the savings are rolled in yet for the energy, because we're not quite sure what they'll be, but we should be fairly certain by next quarter. Again, we're still in preliminary discussions about any capital improvements, and the dollar amount can change significantly, but our intention is to fit whatever improvements into the current rate structure.
Mr. Manager.
Well, I was just going to echo that. That's really been what's holding us back in coming forward with the proposal is we're still trying to get a handle on some of that information, and we're looking at this very carefully. There are some opportunities here to make some improvements, and there's some not only improvements in the physical infrastructure of the water system, but also looking at some operational improvements in terms of utilization of newer technology with regards to meters and hence meter reading that in the long run will save the city money and probably even bring some additional revenue in. That's certainly been the case that we've had with the industrial meters that we've replaced across the city, is they've really, and I think that's a large part of some of the additional revenue that we're seeing. Related, in terms of talking about enterprises, though, I did want to note that another enterprise that we're looking at making some, coming in with a proposal on is the parking enterprise. We see some opportunities for additional revenue for the parking and also a project that will produce additional revenue, a project that will increase the amount of available parking, and also it's also a project that implements the urban evolution plan, otherwise known as the SPEC plan, that provides for parking, on-street parking on Father Morissette and some of those side streets there that currently do not have metered parking. With putting the kiosks out there, we think the payback on those will be quite rapid. It will benefit the businesses, it will benefit the city, it will, on several different counts, and it will produce a flow of revenue that will bolster the parking enterprise fund moving forward as we look at the capital needs of our garages. And I know this is something that Councilor Laurie has asked questions on in the past, and we've been doing some work, and we're going to continue to do work looking at those parking structures, many of which are, up there in years now, that they need to have some investment made to ensure that, that they remain, in good shape moving forward. And we think, again, this revenue could allow us to do that without affecting the parking rates.
That would certainly be good. I mean, we want to continue to invest in our infrastructure without having any great bills down the road. So we certainly want these enterprise funds to be healthy, have the revenues needed to maintain the garages and these kiosks. And certainly from our investigating problems we had in the parking department last year, it was noted many times that there's more accountability in the kiosks in the old meter system, and can generate more revenue and provide more parking overall in the city. So I'd be supportive of that as well, and then certainly a bright spot. I want to thank you and your administration for staying on top of the financial condition of the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lori?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for introducing my next question. You're talking about the garages. The revenue's down by $71,000 from last year. Why would that be? Is there anything in particular in the city where the revenues would be down that much money?
Well, that's in the garage revenue. Meter revenue is up and fine revenue is up. I don't have an answer for you on that. No.
It's a red flag to me. I saw that, and the ICC's having its usual amount of events, the auditorium, and they use those. Maybe, I don't know if it was down at the stadium, at the arena a little bit, but the college hockey isn't on strike or anything, and that was a red flag to me, was $71,000 down.
Well, on a percentage basis, that's relatively small, but it is somewhat surprising. I know that looking at the AOT garage, the revenues there, I know were down a year ago because of the availability of parking now in Lot B that had not been the case before. Whether that would account for $71,000 is hard to say at this point. You're right, the ICC continues to do work. Of course, there is a chunk of that belongs to the university. The early garage is doing quite well, and so that should improve with the community health center now open down in that area. So I think we'll catch up on that during the year, and we should be fine.
Well, even if they went to the new municipal lot, the land lot, we would still be getting those revenues.
At the over
Arena.
here, Lot B is owned by the university. Lot A is owned by the city.
Right.
So if they're going to Lot B, we wouldn't be picking up that revenue.
It's hard because a lot of the people that go to the university games, the university employees, and they have passes to park in their own lots. Right. So they're not always necessarily using our, and we had talked prior about the expansion of the kiosk network. But I'm looking here, we're gonna bond $2 million.
That's right.
And how quickly would you think we'll pick that up?
We think we can, Tom, do you remember what we thought on that? I think it was
Forecast.
It's like 2 or 3 years. Those generate revenue pretty fast.
I know a lot of them will be going over here by the One Lancet buildings and that area.
Right.
Okay, I was just wondering what the forecast is. $2 million, right now, you can get money pretty cheap.
Correct.
So, my estimate would be you would probably knock another year off that with the money being inexpensive.
I don't know about a year, but it is the time to borrow.
Okay.
And again, particularly the Father Morissette parking would prove beneficial for those events as well.
Right.
Because it would be very much easy in, easy out for anyone going to an event over at the Songus.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering about the forecast, but that $71,000, that was a red flag, and
It could be the timing of the receipts as well, that just as they came in, something that was reported last year in December is going to be reported this year in January.
Okay.
Next quarter, if it's helpful, I could break it down by garage.
Yeah, it was just, I thought that was a lot of money, that's all. Where we have contracts with the colleges, Middlesex, and you know, it's just a little bit of a red flag. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any communications? Entertain a motion to accept and place in file, so moved by Councilman Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Mercia. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a communication from the city manager, request approval of out-of-state travel for two to the Lowell Police Department. What's the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Leahy. Roll call, please. Excuse me, Councilor Newman.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, particularly the training, the conference for one of the officers at the crime analysis unit, I would hope that the individual, because the synopsis of what this person's going to be, learning from this conference, it's really really great, and I hope that this individual will, when he or she returned, to give an overview to, his college of what he or she learned at this conference, because it's really impressive. I mean, really, when you look at it, the synopsis, I'm not going to read it into the record, but I would encourage the managers to encourage the chief to have this individual give, an overview to, his college, because it could be helpful to his college as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Laurie.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Next, we have a vote to incur liability for snow and ice removal. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Reading by title. In City Council vote that pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 31D, the City Council of the City of Lowell consents to incur liability and make expenditures in excess of available appropriations for snow and ice removal in the current fiscal year.
Move approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Elliott?
Mr. Manager, can you tell us where we're at with snow and ice expenditure for this year?
At this point, I believe we're at about $350,000 out of a $1.3 million appropriation, 1.35 million. Obviously, right at the beginning of the year, you're going to have your startup costs with salt and materials. And we've had just a few plowing, some sanding that we've done. But it's a good number to be at. Certainly this late into the season.
And did we have to buy, I know we bought some last year, did we have to buy sand and salt again? I thought there was...
Actually, I think you're right, Councilor, that we bought we did, I think, fill the sheds last year. Do you recall that, Tom?
I think we actually had one small delivery so far this year. And I went back and checked against last year. We actually had several small deliveries earlier in the year. And just for some comparisons, because I kind of figured this would come up, the manager's right. We spent $367,000 so far this year. Last year, at the same time through today, it was about $284,000. So we're not too much more than last year, and that was an extremely good year.
Mr. Manager.
The other bit, and I'm going to get a report to the council on this, because you recall last June, I think it was, we closed out some of the snow and ice excess last year. And one of the investments that we made was we equipped the sanders with some computerized equipment that would better regulate the distribution of sand and, or in our case, salt. DPW Commissioner Ralph Snow reported to me just this past Thursday at our staff meeting that they have already paid for themselves in terms of the amount of salt, and he's done the analysis that we'll get out to the council, that move that we made, that the administration brought forward, but that the council supported, has really paid off for the city. And so again, it's positive news for us in terms of moving forward. We should be able to cut those costs down as we go forward.
Councilor Kennedy.
Of the 367,000, you said we're a little bit, would you say that's a little less than what we had spent?
It's a
little bit more than
little bit
last
more.
year.
Last year, we had that big storm at Halloween, which cost the city quite a bit.
Correct.
So, out of the 367, and I had called on this and was told that, that most of this was setup money, or money for sand and salt and that type of thing, rather than for actually cleaning the streets. So, how much have we spent on cleanup out of the 367,000? How much have we spent on cleanup, and how much was spent on products in preparation? Do we know that?
Right, and when you spoke with me, Councilor, I told you that because I was just off the top of my head. I was saying I hadn't done a review necessarily of where it had been spent, but that's always at this time of year. You say, well, there was the startup, but we'll have to get that for you. We don't have that off the top of our heads.
Can we get that next week?
Sure.
I mean, I guess by next week, it might all be different, right? Because if it snows tomorrow, then it would be.
Well, it'll be
a different number, but.
It'll be a different number, but right.
Okay.
But we can get a breakdown.
All right, but I thought when we bought those computerized dispensers, that we also bought an amount of salt at that time. I thought it was cheaper to buy the salt.
I think we did buy some salt towards the end of the year, but there wasn't a vote of the city council to do that. We could do that through the budget. You can buy the salt through the budget, but the equipment you can't.
I understand that, but I thought we did that.
That's right.
And so if we did do that then why did we need to do it just now are you saying that we did it after July 1?
No, I'm saying that we have, as Mr. Moses just said, we have bought some salt this year already, but I think it's just to replenish what we used already.
Okay. And when do you think that we did that?
I'm guessing probably in December.
Okay. I mean, if we did spend a good amount of money. I mean, that was a big storm last year.
Correct.
So there hasn't really been a big storm this year.
No, it hasn't been a big one. There's been a number of storms, though, that we've been out there, and there's also, we have to keep in mind that just because it doesn't snow, when there are incidents of icing, that we have to have the sanders out.
Yes, but there hasn't been that much of that either, it seems to me.
Well, it's always surprising to know the number of times we have to go out on those, because we often do that late at night, and so.
It's probably more prudent to wait for the report, and
Sure.
we can get all that. But I think that with, 65, 66 days left in winter, if we have 950,000 or thereabouts left, then we're in pretty good shape, at least so far, aren't we?
We're certainly in good shape.
Yeah, thank you.
When you consider that other years, the city has spent upwards of $3 million for the winter. But, who knows what's going to happen over the course of the next 65 days.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it snows in April, too, so.
Yes, it does.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Laurie.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Norton.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Next, we have a vote to authorize the manager to execute a memorandum of understanding for the SEIU Local 888 Water and Wastewater from July 1st, 2010 through June 30th, 2012. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilman Dodson, seconded by Councilor Noon. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council vote. Authorizing the City Council to ratify and approve the execution by the City Manager of the Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Lowell and the Lowell Regional Water and Wastewater Utility Professional Group, SEIU, Local 888, Chapter 159, covering the period July 1st, 2010 through June 30th, 2012. What's the wish of the council?
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Laurie. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Laurie.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilman Mendoza.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Council Nolan.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Next, we have a vote to transfer $16,000 for the Munis animal licensing. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilman Mendoza, seconded by Councilman Newman. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Reading by title in City Council vote to transfer funds for the purchase of Munis animal licensing software. What's the wish of the council? Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of questions. So we're transferring $16,000 from the dog licenses, the sale of the licenses for the dogs, to professional service, $6,375. What is the, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager, what is the professional services that we're transferring that money to?
I'm going to have you handle that, Tom.
Okay, yeah, you'll notice the transfer goes into two accounts. The one in professional services is for training. The one in to software is to actually purchase the software.
So software would cost like $9,000 for the software?
Yes.
Wow, that's quite a lot, I thought. And then we got to train them on top of it, so that's
Right.
the 16,000.
There are several enhancements about the dog licensing software that we're hoping will be rolled out over this next several years. First of all, the software that they utilize right now in the clerk's office is homegrown. It was developed by one person. So you're entirely dependent on one person to be able to service that software and upgrade. The software that we're purchasing integrates with our entire financial management system. So key to this is instead of just the clerk's office being able to use it, animal control and any other enforcement will be able to use it via handheld. So a dog officer investigating a problem site with maybe a problem dog will be able to know whether the dog was vaccinated, whether it's licensed in the field. That will help with enforcement. In case of fines, our software can be integrated with the assessor's database, and you know how successfully code enforcement where fines are leaned to the property. Well, this is a case where down the road, we may be able to, if that's the way we want to go, lean unpaid dog violations against the owner of the property as well. Linking to the database is very important when it comes to reporting. I can envision a time when you might, if the clerk, in addition to rabies certificate, loads the breed of dog, etc., you might be able to pull up a report or even a map that would give you all the licensed pit bulls or Rottweilers or poodles, if you wanted. And all those tools are enhancements over the current data management that we have. And those reasons are why we're moving toward a more robust database. This was not a decision made by one person. Law enforcement, the clerk's office, MIS, code enforcement have all participated in this selection process too.
Sure, thank you very much, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilman Mendoza.
Yeah, regarding the software licensing, is this a one-time purchase, or what will be the annual licensing hereafter?
This is a one-time purchase, and the annual licensing, that'll have a small effect on our overall annual licensing, but it won't make a significant impact.
So probably less than 10% of the purchase price for like something?
Probably somewhere in there.
All right. Could you provide us later on when you get that, what's the annual licensing cost for the
Sure.
software? And maybe to, I'm not sure to the clerk or who can answer this, but what has been our experience with collecting the registration fees for dog licenses? How much money have we collected on an annual basis? Anyone know?
Mr. Clerk?
To you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have that information offhand. I could provide it for you.
Okay.
Take a look.
Any, the auditor or?
I have the current balance, it's 43,000, but I don't have the yearly.
Yeah, but
We can get
normally
it to you.
people license their dogs in January, so most of the revenue probably hasn't been recorded yet.
Yeah.
How much did you say was so far?
No, the balance in the fund is a
Oh.
separate fund, is 43,220, 277.
43,000 in the fund? We just don't know how many years it took to accumulate.
Mr. Manager?
I believe we might have cleared that account out last year. That's what we're trying to refer, how much we actually took out. We took out money for, to buy some vehicles last year. I also think we used some to pay for some of the staffing, for the overtime staffing that we wanted so that we could increase
For the,
coverage.
dog
For animal-
ordinance enforcement.
Right, for the dog ordinance. I will say that it's always, and I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but it's always surprised me that given the size of the community, given the size of the city, it's always struck me that we should be collecting more in registration fees. And hopefully this type of software will allow us to, and improved collections will allow us to bring additional funds in.
Actually, that's one feature that I forgot to mention. The current software doesn't have this capability, but with this database, we'll be able to mass mail people who had licenses last year as reminders, and maybe do a license by mail program. I don't know if that's doable with the clerk's needs, but we can incorporate a billing system into this too.
Okay. Thank you for the information, and maybe at the end of the quarter, we get an update on how much we collected for 2013.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kennedy?
If we don't know how much we collected this year, does anybody know how much we collected last year or the year before? I mean, it can't be off that much, but.
I think all four of us can't recall exactly.
Okay. How do we know that we should be collecting more if we don't know how much we're collecting?
Again, as I said, as I just indicated, I don't recall how much it is, but my recollection has always been, when I've looked at that, it's not enough. It seems low compared to
The size of the city.
the size of the city.
My second question is if we're spending 9,000 on the software, then we're spending about 7,000 on the training? And how does that work? I mean, does one person, how does that happen? Who does that? And what's involved?
We actually, we will have people from Munis or an instructor from Munis come here. We have an instruction lab down in the basement with 10 computers. We can accommodate several people at once, and that's how we've done training on all our computer software.
Okay, and do people have to come here to do that? It's done in person, it can't be done,
We've done webinars. When you're installing something brand new like this, a webinar is a great way to refresh everyone's understanding of software or train a few new people. But where we're installing software that's brand new to everybody, it makes sense to have somebody on site. It's not like they're coming from California to do the training.
and do they do other types of training with us?
Yes.
Okay, so the $7,000, where does that come from? Do we have to put out a bid for that, or is that just what they charge for a training session, or?
Training is in our contract, so the hourly rate is in the Munis contract, so we just appropriate money for more hours.
Okay, so the $7,000 is your estimate of what it's gonna cost to get the number of hours necessary to train?
It's not an estimate, it's a quote. We know what the dollar is.
This,
Mr. Manager.
I mean, in terms of the bidding, this is the same software system we use. It's basically it's a single source. It's the software system we use for the entire city. And our goal is, for the last, I think this predates me here, our goal is to move everything in there so that it's a very comprehensive financial management system that, and beyond, you know, when we say financial management, it makes it's just managing the finances. It's actually a management system because it doesn't just give you the dollars and cents type of information. It also gives you the information that you can use to manage more effectively. So, for instance, knowing where the dogs are, knowing what the types of dogs are, knowing the records of their, you know, the shots that they've received, and so on. So it's in their contract what they charge for the training that goes to each module that we acquire, and so that would be.
Okay, I wasn't questioning the merits of the system. I just wondered how we arrived at the $7,000. But that's based on an hourly rate. Okay. And do you know what that hourly rate is? Is it flat for no matter what kind of training?
I don't have the hourly rate off the top of my head, and I don't know how many training sessions that is in that $7,000 quote. I actually have the quote back in my office. I didn't bring it with me.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Council Leahy.
Thank you. Through you, the manager. One quick question. A lot of people may have dogs, but they may not register them. But when you go to the vet and most people would keep up with the shots, are the veterinarian hospitals required to let the city or town know when they give out a rabies shots or whatever shots the animals need? That way, you know, we kind of know.
You happen to know that? The clerk may happen to know that. I think they do.
They do. They provide the certificate that the dog
So
is.
does that get cross-referenced so that we know, well, you got a dog, but you're not
I think
registered?
that the software we're speaking of will have an element to that we can enhance that database in terms of getting requests for registrations out there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We would still need a motion to approve. Sure. So moved by Council Leahy, seconded by Council Laurie. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Laurie.
Yes.
Council Martin.
Yes.
Council Mendonça.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Council Nunn.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Next, we have reports of the Subcommittee, Public Safety Subcommittee of January 15th. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Public Safety Subcommittee met earlier this evening. The first of a series of meetings we're going to try and have every month. On the second Tuesday of each month is our plan at the moment. And there's on a number of different topics that have been suggested to us by the citywide neighborhood group. Tonight's meeting, the topic was gun, gang, and gun and gang violence and drugs to the extent it impacted that. The other members of the subcommittee, Councilor Elliott, Councilor Noon, were in attendance, as were Councilors Laurie, Councilor Rita Mercia, Councilor Mendonça, and the mayor. Chief LaValle presented a PowerPoint presentation, I guess, which outlined, you know, the trends over the last 5 years in homicides, in armed assaults, basically any type of crime that could be committed with a gun. And the trends have been pretty positive overall. Almost every category of crime is down. No homicides last year. In 2012, armed assaults were down. The only thing that there was an increase on was just a discharge of firearms. Either gunshots fired where somebody wasn't hit or shot into a wall or a car or something like that. So those incidents were up slightly. That's no surprise to any of us who've been here. We did see a spike in those incidents toward the end of last summer. Since that time, and most of the focus of the meeting was on efforts that the police department put in place at that time to address that issue. There is, and it's not one magic bullet solution to this problem. It's a multifaceted approach, and the police have been, the primary drivers on this, at least in the number of gunshots. So there's one of the programs, it's data-driven approach to crime and traffic safety, which results in more motor vehicle stops, but there's a lot of kind of smart policing that goes into this. We've heard for years about the police department's CompStat program, and that's not just gathering statistics for statistics' sake. That's really to gather statistics to see where problems are so that resources can be deployed to those problem areas. And when we started to see this spike in gunshots last summer, there were more bicycle patrols, more motorcycle patrols, more foot patrols, all those things being put into those areas where there were problems. The police made it known to gang members that they were being watched. People were arrested. So when someone's arrested and sometimes held, those people are not on the street causing problems. And there's been outreach into the neighborhoods so that police can gain trust of people and help them gather information. So those strategies seem to be working. Since they were sort of re-emphasized and re-energized at the end of the summer, we've seen the number of gunshot incidents go down dramatically, and statistics were presented to show that. Another item that's, I think, on the police agenda, and it's getting a lot of discussion recently, Councilor Elliott had filed a motion in December asking to look into a gun buyback program. The police are going to institute that, funded by the Law Enforcement Trust Fund. There's been a number of discussions, pro and con, of these programs recently, especially in light of the shooting in Newtown, Connecticut. But the chief's view, and I think our view here, is that any one gun out of circulation is one that's not available to do harm or to fall into the wrong hands, be stolen and used for an improper purpose. So that program is being worked on, probably going to take place in the spring. And so those initiatives seem to be working. So we know, and Councilor Mercier commented on this, that this problem needs vigilance. It's not something that you address once and goes away. We need to keep our focus on that, and we plan to. And that's part of the reason for the monthly meetings of the subcommittee. We'll take up other topics besides gun and gang violence that impact public safety, and we'll get a schedule out to people as soon as we're able to develop what those topics are. But that was really the point of tonight's meeting, and I'd ask other members of the subcommittee to comment if they so choose.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Laurie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly from the Transportation Subcommittee, there's going to be a meeting on January 24th at 6:30 at Lowell General concerning the new Rourke Bridge. We attended the meeting this week, and I don't think it's been made public yet, but it will be January 24th, 6:30, Lowell General.
Thank you. Any discussion on the Public Safety Subcommittee report? Entertain a motion then to accept and place on file. So moved by Councilor Noon, seconded by Councilor Mercier. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a vote regarding the recommendation of the Rules Subcommittee. Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You'll recall, and it was your initiative, I think, Mayor, that last year the Rules Committee took up the issue of whether or not to have special meetings for the city manager, the city auditor, and the city clerk. And we decided at that time, and then it was approved by the whole council, to have 8 meetings during the course of the year that would be dedicated to each one of those departments one at a time. And so we did that for that year. And that was done on a trial basis for that year. So because the calendar year has expired, and since Councilor Mercier made a motion a few weeks ago, the Rules Committee looked into whether or not to continue that policy for the upcoming year. And the Rules Committee, which is comprised of myself and Councilor Martin and Councilor Mendonça, came up with a compromise suggestion that rather than to replace those special meetings with, rather than to have those special meetings replace regular council meetings, that the regular council meetings would still take place, but that the oversight meetings, the 8 of them, would take place once a month prior to the city council meetings, so that they would begin at, say, about 5 o'clock. And that is the unanimous recommendation of the Rules Committee. And so the vote before us would be to adopt the recommendation of the Rules Committee, which would then mean that there would be 8 meetings that would, one a month, except over the summertime, and that those meetings would precede the regular council meeting, and they would be dedicated in a rotating order to the city manager, to the city auditor, and to the city clerk's departments.
Motion to adopt the recommendations of the subcommittee, seconded by Councilor Lowry. Any discussion? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I have questions regarding the rules. Rule number 6, and this specifically references special meetings, and the mayor, vice chairman of the council, or any 4 members thereof may call a special meeting, and they have to cause by written notice stating the time and place. I mean, my interpretation of special meetings is that, and I looked in the charter as well, that this seems to be more of a regular meeting followed by another regular meeting if we're going to do them on a regular basis. So I guess I would ask through you, Mr. Mayor, to the solicitor, what is the difference? Because the charter spells out regular meetings, and the rules spell out special meetings, essentially how I interpret it for an emergency purpose, or to call a meeting in between the regular council meetings. So how is this different if there is going to be a regular meeting?
The regular meetings are, and as defined in the rules, are city council meetings. And the regular meetings are those meetings that are held weekly on Tuesday evenings at 6:30, and they're the council meetings. The special meetings, as you indicated, can be called in a variety of ways, but the special meetings are just that. They're meetings that are in addition to the regular meeting that you have at the 6:30 Tuesday night. And so, in essence, the regular meeting that's how the regular meeting is defined and intended by your rules, and anything beyond that meeting would then therefore be a special meeting.
I understand, look, I'm all for oversight and additional meetings, but it just seems we're just scheduling meetings to have meetings, so I would substitute that we do them on a quarterly basis rather than every month before the city council meeting. Want to provide oversight and go with the spirit of compromise, but it seems quarterly would make more sense. And just for the city manager, we do have an oversight committee for the auditor clerk. So for the sake of not confusing the public on all these meetings that we're having and what's being held and what's not being held. I mean, people do like to watch meetings, the city council meetings, and I support it. So I'd offer that in the form of a substitute motion.
Substitute motion by Councilor Elliott. Seconded.
I'll second that, but I
Seconded by
questions
Councilor
about it.
Martin.
Yeah, so I was second for the purpose of discussion, because I did support the recommendation in the subcommittee, although, so so there would be one meeting a year with the manager, one with the auditor, one with the clerk, if they're quarterly? Is that?
I was just going to suggest a manager, because we have oversight subcommittees and personnel. I believe there's a personnel subcommittee,
Yes.
correct? So I was just looking at the city manager, council.
Well, all right, well, thanks for clearing that up, but in my view, the need to meet with the manager is the least important of these, because we really do have weekly meetings about a lot of things with the manager. It's the other two offices that we oversee, the clerk and the auditor. So, annual reviews seems okay for me, for them, but I don't think we should eliminate them from this process. Whether it's every month or every quarter, I think it should be on a rotating basis. So I don't think I'll support the substitute motion, but I did want to at least hear what it was about.
Councilor Kennedy?
Yeah, I've always thought of these meetings as being sort of a committee of the whole type meeting. And these meetings are not in the rules. We were doing this last year. We did it on a one-year trial basis, and I think this year we've kind of would change the format a little bit and the times of the meetings, but again, it would be on a one-year basis, so that it wouldn't require really a rule change. I think that when your initiative was first considered by the Rules Committee, Mr. Mayor, there was no oversight subcommittee. And so these meetings kind of took that role up that the subcommittee had previous to my being here. And in the fall, at some point, the City Council voted to recreate the oversight subcommittee so that then, now I guess what we have is two venues. We have these meetings if this is approved this evening, and then we also have the oversight committee as well. But I mean, I will support I'll support the recommendation of the Rules Committee simply because I voted for it, as did Councilor Martin and Councilor Mendonça, and I just feel that I have an obligation. It was, and so I'm, I'm going to be tied into that. There does seem to be a little bit of overlap, though, and but I think that for 1 year, if we try this and we just have the 8 meetings and we have them before the regular city council meetings, and so that we're not taking a city council meeting away and creating a larger agenda in the next week, that it's probably worth a shot for the second year. And although I guess my only criticism of the meetings would be that I think they would be better if they were almost without an agenda. That is, I feel like the meeting with the city manager, rather than to be filled with PowerPoint presentations, should just be kind of a freewheeling open meeting. And the same thing with the clerk and with the city auditor. And I think that's just a lot better than being constrained to certain items in the agenda. And so that's my only, that's what I recommend with these meetings as we go forward into 2013. Thanks.
Sure. That in fact would be in conflict with the state open meeting law, but Councilor Elliott.
Councilor Mercy had a hand up before me.
I didn't see the hand, so Councilor Elliott and then Councilor Mercy.
Look, I'm not going to make a big issue of this. I have no issue with going to 30 meetings a month, but I just have, I guess I'm just confused, and if I'm confused, I can think people at home are saying, we're going to have a special meeting to discuss whatever before a council meeting once a month. If there were specific purposes for this, I mean, I just looked through the last year that we went through. The manager did not have his annual evaluation. I would have thought that would have been one of the subject matters. He's supposed to be evaluated annually in order to get a raise, and that was not done. We didn't do the same for the clerk, as far as I know, and we didn't do the same for the auditor. So I just do not understand the purpose, other than it's just going to be a presentation every month on some subject matter, which I quite frankly think should be covered during the council meeting. So I'll withdraw my substitute motion. That's the recommendation of the Rules Committee. If we're going to have a meeting before a meeting, that's fine.
Any further discussion?
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
You know, Mr. Mayor, maybe we just have a different vision of how the meeting should be. I don't really see that if we have a meeting with the city manager that's supposed to be an oversight meeting, and if we have a PowerPoint presentation or whatever it might be, and the meeting is, and that's all that we can talk about, that really doesn't provide the city council with any oversight. It just allows the city manager to feature special items on the agenda. That's not oversight to me, and I don't think anybody would consider that a definition of oversight. When I say freewheeling, what I mean is that if some councilor has issues regarding the water department or the election commission or any other department or any other function of the city, that those matters should be brought up at that time. Certainly, the agenda could be posted in a way where that would not be a violation of the open meeting law. And if it isn't, and if we can't have that type of dialogue and oversight, then the meetings are of little value.
Councilors, just so that everybody understands, councilors have always been able to actually add items to the agenda, but those items have to be, posted before they actually are discussed, 48 hours before. Councilor Martin.
Well, I was going to say just that. I think my understanding of these meetings, councilors have always been free to raise topics, but they need to be listed on the agenda in advance. And I thought that's how these would continue. I think that's how they're supposed to continue by law. So, and I've actually suggested a few items for agendas, I think, with the manager and at least with the clerk, maybe not so much with the auditor. So, I think that's the way it has to be. I think it can be as wide open as whatever the agenda ends up being, but I think it has to be done that way.
Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion by you, Mr. Mayor, a year ago was what was before us, and the last Tuesday in the month, instead of a city council meeting, was devoted to 3 departments that this council oversees. It was on a trial basis for a year. The year was almost up. I made the motion to revisit that, to either retain it or remove it. Having said that, it was sent to the Rules Subcommittee, and rightfully so, to discuss it. I felt that at the time where we reinstituted the clerk auditor oversight, which is what we are responsible to do, is to oversee, I thought that maybe in not taking away from a city council meeting, we could hold refer any impending issue over to that subcommittee. Having said that, a compromise was reached, and the compromise said, we're not going to take away from your last city council meeting. We'll leave it a city council meeting. We'll hold a special meeting either before or after. And it was determined that I didn't really feel it should be after, because what if the meeting stopped at like 10:15 and then we're going to go in and we're going to meet again with one of the department heads that we oversee, and it would go over the 10 o'clock rule. I thought maybe before would be better, and maybe we could meet for an hour and a half before or an hour before for some that come in and work out of the city. Having said that, that was the compromise, which I thought was fair. Fair in that we're overseeing departments that have ongoing issues, and I think it's important that we still oversee it. And no doubt about it, that's important. And we get the best of everything. We're going to have the 4th city council meeting devoted to the city council, to the issues pertaining to the city. So I don't see any, I see a compromise that I can agree with. If we had it at the auditor oversight, and we could have added the manager/city manager oversight subcommittee, then the council doesn't really have to attend it. Probably just the 3 that are probably on it. But a special meeting requires us all to be there and all to do our job that is put forth by the charter that says we oversee these 3 departments. I personally feel that it's enough time. If we have to devote 2 hours to an issue, say to the city clerk, we have a major problem then. And I think things are moving pretty smoothly to the point where we're meeting on a regular basis. It's not like we overlooked these departments for 5 years and we got to catch up on it. So I think it's a compromise that has value, and it just speaks for itself, and I support it.
Councilor Noon and then Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Although I testify at the subcommittee meeting, I find that this special meeting of the clerk, the auditor, and the managers was helpful to me these past years, and I'd like to have it continue for reasons as stated that you don't want to wait till problem arrive. You actually talk and discuss and find way to resolve things before it pile up, and that's and there's still work to be done, I believe, in the clerk department as well. So I think I thought it was helpful a year ago, and I still think that it would be. However, giving the subcommittee in the compromise way, the subcommittee of the rule committee have came up with the recommendations that we're still going to have it prior to the council meeting, at least this year's for 8 meeting. I'm leaning towards supporting that substitute motion by the subcommittee of the rule. So that said, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councilor Kennedy. I don't want to come and see a presentation. The meeting should be dictated by the council. That said, if we have any concerns or questions, we could call it in and put it on the agenda, which would cover the law. As far as how many times we meet, whether we deal with the manager, the auditor, the city clerk, we're able to call for any questions we have for any materials prior to the meeting. We get them. If we have any concerns, we can call back. I agree with Councilor Mercier. I don't think the meetings necessarily need to be that long. We'll have the agenda. Any private concerns we have, we can call, get the information, look at it, digest it, call back. If we have any concerns, get some answers. Usually the information comes out to all the councilors, and then just come and meet. And I don't have a problem with the recommendations, but I believe the council should, if they want it on the agenda, we all have the opportunity to put it on. In between that time in the meeting, we can call for the information that may concern us, or anything we see on the agenda that concerns us. And I agree with Councilor Mercier. I don't see why the meeting should take that long. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the original motion by Councilor Kennedy? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have general petitions. Claims, 1 claim for property damage. Entertain a motion to refer to the Law Department for report and recommendation. So moved by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Mercier. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Miscellaneous petition by Peter Marlowe of Tingsboro, Massachusetts. Request a zoning change for land known as 14 and 16 3rd Street. Entertain a motion to refer to the Law Department. So moved by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted.
Mayor?
Councilor Leahy.
Can I ask a question on this? Sure. I don't know if it goes to you or the manager, but I know we're going to refer this, but do we get any information on this, or will this come back for us to vote, or?
It will come back. It will come back for a vote.
And basically, could you just tell us what they're looking for? It's not really clear in the. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's not being filed by the administration. It's a
Right,
petition.
Okay, so wait for it to.
Madam Solicitor.
There'll also be a report from the planning board that will come back to the council when,
Oh, okay.
when you go to vote on it, and we'll also provide an explanation, thorough explanation as to exactly what the implications of the potential zoning change will have on our current zoning.
All right. My other question is, if it comes to us though, and then we refer it, should the request have a little more information so we know what we're referring to the law department?
Sure.
Or is this kind of standard practice?
Yes, generally speaking, this is the standard practice, and essentially you're taking the petition or the request and you're forwarding it off to a department, and in this case, the law department, the planning board. We also at times work the engineer's office on some of these. And with the understanding that when it comes back for actual action, or from action, you will have before you a complete explanation as to exactly what is being requested and what the implication is, and also what the ultimate recommendation is.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Kennedy. Moving then to the motions portion of the agenda, Councilor Mercier requests the city manager provide an update on the water utility investigation in an executive session meeting. Seconded by Councilor Laurie. Councilor Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion does speak for itself. I want to know where we're going with this. It seems like it went into the black hole of oblivion, and I just want to refer it to executive session, because I know we can't discuss it if it's an ongoing investigation, or did the investigation end? I have no idea. I don't know what's going on with it. So I'd like to say, when we get some information relatively soon, are we still in there, or we're not, or it's over, or what? I just like to know where we stand, because it's a very important motion that I made, and I don't want to forget about it, and I won't forget about it. So that's the gist of this motion. Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Just by, it has not been forgotten, and be happy to brief the council on that in the executive session.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have motion by Councilor Mercier. Request the City Council recognize Lynn Brown Zunas in our new business New England Adult Day Health Center at the following City Council meeting. Seconded by Councilor Laurie. Councilor Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are 12 employees there at this particular place. There are 12 people who otherwise might be still looking for a job at this particular place. This is a motion to recognize the efforts of business people who create jobs, who turn empty building structures that are full of energy and life, and they add to our tax base, to the community, that need an extra boost. This was a motion some time ago by City Councilor Dan Tenza to recognize people such as these. This is one of those people that I would request that if you, Mr. Mayor, could present a citation, if you need some information, I'd be happy to give it to you, and it would allow this person to be recognized before the City Council meeting, perhaps next week, so that I could notify this person. To me, this is long overdue. This is for Lynn Brown Zunas and her business in New England Adult Day Healthcare Center, which is the old napping building at 81 Bridge Street. This business has been open since August, but has never been given the recognition of Dan Tenza's motion, and I feel that it should. Let me give you a little brief synopsis of this. I was there in August when it opened up. I guess it fell through the cracks. I probably should have brought it up at that time, but I didn't realize it. But there are 12 employees there, 12 people that might otherwise not have a job and probably would still be looking for a job. They are the largest adult daycare center in Massachusetts, serving about 200 people a day. Their clients range in age from 18 years to senior citizens. They purchased the napping building in December, and they have put in their personal investments totaling $1.7 million into this business. They have taken 12,000 square feet of vacant, unused, deteriorating commercial property and transformed it into a state-of-the-art facility, generating an added tax base for the city. Lynn is that Lowell resident, and invested in the city of Lowell, and I think 5 minutes of recognition is much deserving to this person. Thank you.
Council Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was at the opening also, and I know Councilor Noon was there, and I remember Councilor Elliott. The mayor wasn't able to make it. I presented probably a citation at the time. Because I remember kidding with Councilor Elliott saying, hey, I'm low man on the totem pole, and I was going to have him. But there was a citation handed or presented at the time of the opening. I don't know if that's the same as what you're looking for here.
Council Mercier.
I don't know if there was a citation. If there was, then perhaps we could look it up in the computer somewhere and,
Oh, yeah,
but at least she should be coming here before the council and the
Right.
public.
We did it, I know the mayor couldn't make it, and I was asked, because I was going, and I remember reading it outside the building. We took the tour, and then they brought us outside, and we did the citation outside, and, but not here at City Hall.
Well, I'd like to see her come up here.
That's fine, yeah.
And be recognized
No, it's a beautiful
publicly.
building, it's a beautiful facility.
So thank you. I would just request that.
Sure. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. The Irish mayor will get right on it.
Thank you.
Next motion by Councilor Elliott, request the city manager, city clerk, report on the status of the ethics training requirement for 2012. Second by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. I put manager, and I know the law says it's the clerk that has a responsibility to make sure this is in compliance, but I put you, Mr. Manager, because I didn't know if the city solicitor and you distribute information to the employees, or if that is the clerk. That's the only reason why. And I'm also thinking, if some people are not in compliance, then they work for you. So, and what prompted this is I saw an email about the ethics law, and I know we received the memo from you, Mr. Clerk, last March about the reporting requirements, and I went online and I did it, and I think we were all supposed to do it, and all employees in the city is supposed to do it as well. And has that taken place? Because we need to be in compliance with this law.
Mr. Manager.
I will defer to the city clerk, who is statutorily has that responsibility. The solicitor has worked with the clerk's office in the past on it, and I know that we're working with MIS on some computerization, if you will, of this training that I know that would assist the clerk's office. But perhaps, Mr. Clerk, if you have a report on that, or again, we can get a report, certainly.
Yeah, we do have this requirement, and we all were supposed to take it, and if we didn't, I don't even know what the penalty is, but, and I know there was some glitch with, I thought there was some glitch with the software, but I was able to take it, and I know they're rolling out another system, but I think it's important for us to make sure that we're all in compliance, and given the ethics issues, not certainly in the state, because this was adopted a year ago. It's important that we educate and inform employees and all of us elected officials, appointed officials as well. I mean, they're pretty firm with making sure this is being done. So,
Mr. Clerk.
Counselor, if I could, through the mayor, 2012 is a little bit of a quirky year in terms of the Ethics Commission. What they did was wiped out the 2012 test, basically, and they were replacing it with a new system. It took them forever to get that system up and running. They finally have, and they've gave us a compliance date of April of 2013 to comply with the 2012 requirements. So that's the new compliance date, and I have ideas about how I'm going to roll that out in terms of getting it to each individual employee. And I provide a report for you.
So can you tell me how many employees, officials took that online
in
test
2012?
Because I did it on the internet. I just went on the internet and took it.
Yeah, I can get you a raw number on that, I don't have it in front of me. But like I said, the state wasn't really requiring it so much, they were telling us to kind of hold back until the new system got in place, and then there were glitches with that state system. Now there are not, and they gave us April 2013 to comply with everything. So I'm gonna roll it out in a big bundle, and it's gonna be on a learning management system. Instead of going to the state website, we'll be able to take it on the city website, a learning management system that's.
Okay, so the state law says when we took it in 2012, it's good for 2 years. Does that mean everybody else everyone that took it has to go and do it again?
So, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The other thing, I noticed some other communities have manuals, guidance manuals that they put together independent of what the state law is. Do we have anything like that, Mr. Clerk or Madam Solicitor? Do we have an ethics manual?
The state has certain materials, the city itself, as far as I know, and I'll let the clerk speak to the issue. As far as I know, the city doesn't have anything independent of that. But again, I would defer to the clerk.
I mean, because we all had to receive, and other communities are doing, they're looking into giving their employees manuals, because if you look at the information from the state, it's okay, but I don't think it's very explanatory, and I think we could do a better job. In Springfield, they actually did this a number of years ago, and they actually adopted an ethics commission to, I guess, provide an independent arm and oversight for elected and other officials, who reports to who. And I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I'd like to at least refer this issue to you, Madam Solicitor, and get your thoughts on a commission. There are some merits to having a commission, but interestingly enough, the mayor appoints a member, city council appoints a member, and the school committee appoints a member. And employees may, if there was such a commission, I'm thinking on the positives, they would have somewhere to go that's independent and outside of the employer. But it's just a thought, it's just an idea. So. That's the essence of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Martin.
Just, I took the test too. I expect almost everybody in this room took it. But the problem is, if you take it on the state website, the city doesn't necessarily know you took it. There's an extra step you have to follow to notify the clerk, and then that's not necessarily an automated system, so you try to track several thousand employees. It becomes a challenge. So I can see where there's been some quirks in rolling this out. But, I do support the motion. I'm glad to hear that actually the state's given a little extra time for this. So I support the motion. I welcome the report. I only add, I think we do provide things to our employees. I may not be as comprehensive a manual as that, but certainly I think for new hires, we do. And so whatever report comes back, I think we should get HR's input, because I suspect they're at the forefront of what we're doing here.
Thank you. Councilor Laurie.
I took that in 2011 at the university, and actually I was painting a room this weekend, and I found it kicks out a little certificate with the date that you took it and that you passed it, because I thought I was going to have to take it in 2012, even though it was good for 2 years, and they said, well, take it again, but the problem came up with the system, and we got kicked back. But there is a way you can get a copy that you completed that. Yeah. You can't flunk the test. They'll ask you a question, A, B, C, or D. If you put A, oh, wrong, try again, press B. Yeah, you're wrong, try again. It's impossible to flunk.
They revised it.
I passed it. But no, honestly, you could press a little button and it gives you a certificate.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Excuse me, Madam Solicitor.
I just, if I could, I'm just not 100% clear as to what exactly is being referred to the law department. We do have, as Councilor Martin was alluded to, we do have some basic information, and back when this first came about, we had worked closely with the clerk's office and HR, and those things are given to new employees along with other policies and things of that nature. But as far as a booklet, or, I'm just not clear exactly what, Counselor, you'd like us to look at.
Well, why don't I do this? I will, well, I guess I could PDF it, but it's pretty comprehensive. The city of Springfield adopted a guidance manual and forms, and it's a little bit more stringent, a little bit more strict than the state ethics guidelines. So I will get this to you. They also established an ethics commission, and I would like us to look into it, as well. I mean, most governing bodies, that Congress, the House and Senate both have committees on ethics, and I even know communities are adopting ethics committees. Even the town of Hudson is looking into it. So clearly, I think with the number of ethics violations, it's an important subject matter, and it's good for us to look into getting a manual and maybe setting up a commission or some oversight board. So I hope that helps.
Madam Solicitor.
We'll be happy to look at the Springfield model, and also I know that 2 meetings up, the City Solicitors and Town Council Association are having a seminar just on the latest updates to the ethics laws, and we'll work with the clerk's office as well in having attendance at that, and be able to update the council as to sort of what's going on with that group as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Elliott. Request the city manager report on appointments to the Lowell Commission on Disability, seconded by Councilor Laurie. Councilor Elliott.
The motion speaks for itself, Mr. Manager. There are 2 out. I attended the monthly Lowell Commission on Disability last Thursday, and letters have been submitted, I believe, several months ago, Mr. Manager, to you from, well, I believe Gail Bartlett indicated that, because I asked her when was it sent, because it's important that there are 2 members want to get appointed. So do you have any idea when those?
Mr. Manager.
Yeah, actually, Council, I was in touch with Mr. Lastman last week on this as well. There was some database issues that we're working through. It's next week. Both those will be, because those are lapsed a couple years ago now.
Right.
And the database wasn't picking those up. But and then I have a number of other members that are coming up in the next month, so I'll be bringing all of those in next week.
Okay, that's good. And there was one other issue. There is a person that is still on the city website, Amy Young. She's no longer on the commission, and in order for the clerk to take, with this new database, or is it AgendaNet, in order for them to take it off, they want to get a letter. I don't even know if you received the letter of resignation, but if you could forward some communication down to say she's no longer on the commission, then
Sure.
She can come off and the others could go on.
Great.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilman Dodson. Request the city manager provide a plan to address the unaccepted streets, naming the streets and the mileage to be addressed in the current FY in each of the next 5 fiscal years. Seconded by Councilor Mercier. Councilman Dodson.
Yes, during the last, when we did the strategic goals and objectives last year, one of them included addressing unaccepted streets. And during the budget time, if my recollection is correct, I thought there was a position added in the engineer's office that among the tasks would be helping with this effort. And since then, I haven't seen anything. I'm sure there's work going on, but I haven't seen anything come before us to accept new streets, other than some developments where the developer has done it for us. But this effort is more to address our older unaccepted streets, with the intent of getting us more Chapter 90 money in the long run. Because year after year, the amount of money we get from Chapter 90 is based on the mileage of accepted streets. I know some of them may be difficult to engineer, but there's probably some short, straight streets that could be gotten out of the way. And this is just a way of getting to know what's on the plan. Of course, it may change year after year, but we should at least be able to get what's planned for the current year and expect to see those come before us. And so this is just kind of a way of getting more knowledge of what is planned in the current year, and hopefully what would be planned out for the next 5 years, even though that may evolve as the years progress.
Mr. Manager.
Councilor, we can put a report like that together. As you know, this has been an issue that the city has been problematic in the city. I remember we did do a street just recently, within the last several months, Technology Drive, which was completed back in the 90s, maybe even the 80s, and because I remember we accepted it when I was a town manager over in Chelmsford back then. The Lowell portion, of course, wasn't accepted until recently. So this has been an accumulation of years and years and years of unaccepted streets here in the city, and the engineer's office has been working on it. We've been bringing streets in as they become available, but you're right, it shortchanges the city and the money that it could be getting. Unfortunately, after it hasn't been done, when it should have been done, there's all the engineering work and legal work that has to go into it. But I know that Ms. DeMayo has been plugging away on this, and we'll get a report of that nature.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Noon. Request the city manager prepare updated list of capital improvements for 2013 and 2014. Second by Councilor Mercier. Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know the manager have give us a list of capital improvement plans a while back. I know that there's always something in addition to it, something urgent, something come up. So that's why I request that an updated capital improvement plans from the managers. I'll just give you one example: the fire department, the garage, and for where the mechanic need to work on the fire truck, and there's not barely any room at all for the mechanic to work on that. So I'm sure that's going to be part of the list of the managers. So looking forward to receive an up-to-date capital improvement plans, and then have some questions when that arrives. Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Just as you recall, when we talked about the free cash recently, we talked about how we're going to update our or expedite some of the capital investments in the for fiscal year 2014, and it's our plan to actually try to get that to you sooner. And so we'll include what we had last year or any modifications, and sort of probably combine a couple of years worth of work, as well as some new information, new capital projects that have come about. We're hoping to get that to the council hopefully by the end of February, so that particularly on the school-related work and road work that we want to do, the money's there. We know what the money is now. We can start planning for it so that we can hit this construction season. So the updated plan hopefully will be to the council within the next month and a half.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Leahy. Request that City Council set a date to discuss the master plan, either in subcommittee or special meeting during the month of January.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. I just put this motion in to make sure. I thought that we wanted to go over the final draft of the master plan and sooner than later, so that they can finalize it. So I didn't know where it would go. I'll leave that up to your discretion, Mr. Mayor or Mr. Manager.
Mr. Manager.
As many of you know, we had 2 meetings last week, community input sessions regarding the master plan. I know that some councilors were able to make it to one or both of those meetings. As part of the process, the input that was received, the Planning Development Department is now going through and updating and modifying, and a step in the process is adoption by the City Council of the master plan. I'll be happy to work with the Mayor's office in finding out when DPD has that ready to go, and bring that into the council.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Laurie. Request the City Council support the past and continuing efforts of our state delegation in modifying Mass General Laws, Chapter 30B, particularly as it relates to the efforts of selecting Massachusetts bidders over out-of-state bidders. Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last year, I'd put in a motion to ask for home rule petition, and a little inexperience on my part. I know State Rep Golden did make this motion last year down at the State House, and he's going to do it again, and I've got to thank the City Solicitor's Office. As Councilor Mercy alluded earlier, these have to be done by Friday, and I know Representative Thomas Golden, who's always been really a leader in trying to help mass bidders with this problem with 30B, is going to file legislation again. And, you know, I really support it. I think we really need to look at 30B. I think it's it's in some areas you need it, in some areas, but I think it's really opens itself up for debate, and I really think we really have to look at it. Other states are giving in-state bidders preference over out-of-state bidders, and I just asking the council to just take a vote, and we can send it down with Representative Golden and his efforts to at least modify or have the state look at 30B and help in-state bidders. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Lowry, request the City Council request our state delegation file legislation to amend the Victims' Rights Act so that municipalities may legally legally recognized by the courts as a victim during plea and sentencing proceedings.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Noon. Councilor Lowry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I know this was highlighted in a Lowell Sun article by Lyle Moran. A couple of weeks ago, I know Councilor Bill Martin had a subcommittee meeting, safety subcommittee, and the DA's office was here. And I asked, can we put in a letter saying how these people hurt the city? And I filed a motion a couple of weeks ago asking, and it came back from the DA's office, unless we modify the language of the Victims' Rights Acts in Massachusetts, we can't do it. So I contacted Senator Donahue, and I spoke to her, and she thought it was a good idea. And again, I'm asking for the council for their support. I know the delegation is going to file at the State House level. I know State Senator Eileen Donahue is going to look into this at the Senate level. And it's what we want to do is change the Victims' Rights Act. Right now, a victim is an individual or possibly their family member. We'd like to add the term municipality in as also a victim. And that way, when someone's arrested, the police could go and try to keep them on bail, or in this case, the city could actually give a letter stating what effects it's having on a municipality. So that's the idea. I was having coffee this week downtown. I ran into an attorney I knew, and he looked at it and he said, you might be on to something. I'm not an attorney, but I guess the courts have ruled corporations are people, so why not municipalities? So I'm just asking for the support of the council. We're going to send a letter out again, I guess tomorrow, to the delegation, and this will be filed by Friday. And I want to thank the city solicitor for her help in this matter where it pertains to law. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have executive session to review the release of the executive session minutes regarding contract negotiations with city auditor, non-union personnel. And we would then adjourn after executive session adjourns.
Yes, so moved.
So moved by Council Mercia, second by Council Mendonça. Council Martin.
Is this just to review the minutes and vote to approve them? Is that like we do here with regular minutes?
Right.
Only we have to do it in executive session because these are executive session minutes?
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Roll call, please.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Lowry.
Yes.
Council Martin.
Yes.
Council Mendonça.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Council Nguyen.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.